Hey YouTube, welcome to another Green Dragons Gaming Club Battle Report. Without us, they never feel like winners, and without them, we couldn't look so good. And we have for you another Pretty Boy Bat Rep. Continuing with my saga here, it is Buckeye Game 3, and I am playing against KoE. And no, it is not an all-peasant list, it is actually a legitimate KoE list. I'm playing Patrick Bond. And we'll get into this one. This is my list. Feel free to pause it, take a look. So, as I've said in my past couple of games, kind of game one really did not go well for me, and then game two, I was a bit impatient trying to get a 20-0, and I kind of screwed myself over a little bit. Ended up getting a draw, but now I'm just going to play to have fun, try some things out, and see what I can do. So I'll go over his list and deployment. The scenario in this one was capture the flags, and otherwise it was attacker defender, and I got the one where I could push up on the flanks, and he could push up in the middle. So looking at this picture, you can see on his top left he's got a trebuchet. He's got a unit of Grail Knights with a Paladin in it, but the Paladin is just like a defensive kit. It's nothing too scary. On the hill, he has a unit of Peasant Archers with the stakes. Then he's got two units of Knights of the Realm. They're pretty large buses. The bus closer to the hill has his General, and then the other one has his BSB, and then he has a Mage with Druidism, which is pretty key in this game. On the other side of the woods, he has a unit of Peg Knights, and then he has another Trebuchet. So I like his list a lot. It's pretty much what I think of when it comes to KoE, and it's nice and balanced. For my deployment on the other side of the trees, I vanguard them up already in this picture as a unit of Dark Raiders. And then I did something kind of strange. You probably picked up on it already. I basically abandoned the center. We were going back and forth deploying different things, and I wanted to see where he was putting his night buses. And then we got to the point where, we were going to go back and forth, and I know he doesn't get any advantages to his rolls, and then it just becomes a straight die roll-off. But I really don't want him to get first turn. I have a lot of tools in this army to deal with knights, but a lot of it involves range with shooting and magic, and I don't want him to get multi-charges off. If I can take him one-on-one, I can beat most of his units, because I even have good anti-armor with the spears and the executioners. But I want first turn, so I said, I'm going to drop the rest. And he kind of looked at me and said, I don't get like an advantage for my rolls. And I said, I know, but I really wanted first turn, and this is why. I'll kind of walk you through what I was thinking. So he basically had only a couple units left, and I knew, just due to leadership and things like that, where he was likely going to put them. So I gave myself, I think, a +3 to go first. And I wanted first to try something out. So I overloaded the left side. On the other side of the building, I have my executioners, I have my spears with my general BSB in it, I have my Kraken, the dancers behind, harpies, repeaters dead center, the knights on the other side to go up against those pegs, and the two bolt throwers. What I want to do is, first turn, I'm going to just march up those executioners and those spears, basically right in the face of those Grail Knights. His one unit of knights all the way over to the right is not going to be able to charge anything. His Grail Knights will be able to charge my executioners, but they would have to go in alone. Or he could try, and it would be tough to pull off both of them, but he could try to essentially multi-charge the Grail Knights and his general's unit into my spears. And if he happens to make it with both, I'm hoping I can be steadfast and then countercharge. But basically, I don't even have to let it come down to that. I could essentially just throw the harpies up and chaff his one unit. And I would just be in his face turn one, and he would have some tough decisions to make, because he'd either have to charge or basically just take it because I wouldn't leave him room to march his way out of my charge arcs with those infantry blocks. And his other knight units in the center would either have to come over to help or they'd have to abandon the Grail Knights and try to go elsewhere. And then on the other side, I'm thinking that my Dread Knights facing off against those Peg Knights is a good strategy. Because if I get the charge off on those guys, I think I can crush them pretty easily and run them down. And then the bolt throwers are on the hill, obviously, just to shoot stuff up. Now, the unfortunate part is capture the flags is not very advantageous to me. It is for him because he has such a movement advantage. And I think I actually forgot to choose his flags. Just trying to think back. No, I think I just chose his three knight buses. And then he chose my little units. He chose my knights, he chose my repeaters, and he chose my dancers. Because those are the easiest things to pick up. So anyway, so that's how I set up. I'm excited to try this out, and he wins the roll-off, of course. I roll like a 2, and he rolls a 5. And it's a tie, but he wins the tiebreaker. So my whole plan has just been thrown out the window because he just marches straight down the middle with everything, as you can see. And he moves his Pagan Knights up aggressively, which now is going to complicate things with my charge with the Knights. I'm going to have to charge the Raiders first to try to get them out of the way. And yeah, that's not good. And I was getting around to shooting too. And then he does something that I thought was kind of strange. So his archers shoot at the repeaters, kill a couple, no big deal. And because my Raiders are threatening his one trebuchet and his archers couldn't see them, he shoots the trebuchet at the Raiders and kills 2 of them, but they pass their panic. And then the other trebuchet misses, I believe. And that's it for his turn 1. Dread Elves turn 1. The Dark Raiders, the Dark Raiders charge the trebuchet up at the top. So I'll at least get one of those things because they're really bad for my infantry. I need to get rid of them. And I just give myself the 5-up ward save blessing. In the meantime, I march up aggressively on the flanks with my infantry blocks like I wanted to originally, but now I got to get more creative in how I'm going to try and trap him. At the bottom, I'm just going to resign to the fact I'm going to lose the repeaters. There's nothing I can do, really. And what I'm hoping to do is have his one unit charge the repeaters, I flee, and then he doesn't really have any other counter charges with them. He can try to then go into the dancers. I unfortunately couldn't. I can only sidestep them 3 inches, so they're just in charge distance, which I didn't realize at the time, but later came about. So yeah, and then if I have to flee with them, and then that will hopefully give me a counter charge with the Kraken and the spears and the executioners either into his Grail Knights or into the flank of that unit when it fails the charge. So rest of movement. So now I do the charge with the Dark Raiders because I can clip the Peg Knights and then I charge with the Dread Knights and I get all the Dread Knights in and I just have one Dark Raider on the outside and then I can overrun and chaff up his other unit and overrun with the Knights. The Knights go off towards his other trebuchet, and next turn I kill the trebuchet, and I have a scoring unit that's safe. I need a 5 on Swift Stride, and they fail their frickin' charge. So the Raiders now go in by themselves, and I think we all know how that's going to go. Oh boy. Alright, in Magic, I get Molten Copper off. I kill off a couple Knights, which was nice. And then shooting, I think I kill off one more Knight. With bolt throwers. In close combat, the Dark Raiders clean up the trebuchet, which is great, and now they're facing the flank of those peasant archers. In the combat with the Peg Knights, I don't do any wounds to him. He does 1 wound to me, luckily, so we stick. And then I just move them over as much as possible so that, basically I reform so that his other Knights can't countercharge into them. So that's it for me. Alright. KoE turn 2. Okay, so no, I was wrong. I tried to reform the Dark Raiders as much as possible, but no matter what, he was going to get a flank on them. So there he goes. But at least my knights will be safe for this turn, and they'll have another shot at those peg knights. He charges the bottom repeaters. I flee, so that's one scoring unit down, and then that's when it came up that he actually could see the dancers. I thought maybe I had just gotten out. Not much I could do. I wasn't planning on him getting first turn. He charges there. If he connects them, he's going to kill them, and then he's in my backfield. So I had to flee, hoping I wouldn't flee more than several inches, and I roll like a 10, and they go off the board. So that's 2 scoring units that he didn't even have to work for. And my knights, because they failed to charge, are kind of stranded, so that sucks. The only good news is he fails his charge. And then with his Grail Knights, he does the smart move, and he just reforms. So now I'm thinking I'm in a pretty good spot because I can charge my spears into the flank of those knights, and I could charge the Kraken into the front, and that's his general's unit, and that is now a pretty easy unit to pick up. That is until his magic phase. You know, I'll just say this. He kicked my ass in the magic phase all game. He was rolling high for the amount of dice he was getting, and then I just couldn't stop anything. He got the throne off, which I had let go through the turn before, and then he did the regen on them, which I didn't really care that much. My spears have the flaming banner, and then lethal strike is going to ignore his regen anyway, and plus he has his ward save, so I wasn't really concerned. What I was concerned about was the toughness spell, and I tried my best to stop, and he still gets it off. So those guys are like toughness 6 or toughness 7, and now for me to charge them, I'm not going to kill them, or I'm not going to kill enough to break them. I don't think. You know, I'd have to rely on static combat res, and he's got his general in there who can do a lot of wounds to me, and I just think that's a recipe for disaster, because then his Grail Knights can countercharge, so that was rough. Over here, yeah, he kills the chaff, no big deal. Alright, so Dread Elves turn 2. I decide, let's get these Grail Knights out of the way. So I charge both the Executioners and the Spears into them, and I do rerolls for charges. The Executioners fail, of all things, and they're the ones that have Swift Stride, but the Spears get in, so that's good. And then I'm thinking I can still trap his General's unit, because I move the Harpies in front, and I move the Kraken up a little bit, so now he can't march around them, they're only an inch away. He can charge them, but even if he overruns, you know, I'm thinking my Spears will be there, my Kraken will be there, and I can trap his General's unit. So that's pretty nice. My Dread Knights finally decide they want to get into combat, so they charge the Peg Knights. There's nothing I can do, those bolt throwers are toast, but if I can get these Knights out of the way and kill those Peg Knights, that would be a big help. Sorry for the blurry picture, but in Magic, the only thing I'm able to get off is a Word of Iron, so I just increase their armor save, make them more durable, and then I make the Grail Knights flammable, which is great. In shooting, the bolt throwers take their last stand and kill off a couple knights. Not too bad. And then we go into combat. In the center, things go well. Things go as I think they should. I kill like 4 or 5 Grail Knights. He doesn't do too much to me. I win combat. The issue is, now, do I pursue or not to pursue? He has Swift Stride, I don't. So I feel like it's a gamble if I try to catch them. Now it is points, it's a lot of points. It's Grail Knights plus his Paladin. But if I fail to catch him, then his General's unit is going to get away. And the whole trap is for naught. And then his Grail Knights will likely get away, and then it's his turn next, he's just going to rally. And then I have to try to make a long bomb charge to get into them again. And I just figured, you know what, I'm going to try to restrain. I did it just for giggles, and I actually would have caught them if I had gone after them. Of course I would have caught them, but no, it's fine. I let them go, and you can't see it in this picture, but I do a combat pivot to face his General's unit to try and trap him. And then in the Dread Knight combat, they freaking whiff. It was unbelievable. I think I do 1 wound, and he does 1 back to me, so I just win by a charge. Either that or we bounced. I don't remember, but he doesn't go anywhere. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. I'm doing the math in my head, and I should be winning that combat by like at least 3. And the gosh, that unit is just whiffing all over the place. So anyway, this is where the Grail Knights end up. My Dark Raiders, I forgot to mention, had charged the flank of the peasants. I only killed 1 peasant, but it was enough to win combat. He didn't do anything to me, and he just broke on Steadfast, and I chased him down and caught him. Now I'm hoping those Grail Knights don't rally, and if they continue to flee, maybe those Raiders can just push him off the board. Alright, KoE turn 3. He charges the Harpies, because he really doesn't have any other choice. His Grail Knights rally, of course, and then his other Knight bus goes into the first Bolt Thrower, which is expected. In a magic phase, he continues to get off just about whatever he wants, and he's growing these Grail Knights back almost to full health, which is just demoralizing. Druidism is fantastic with this army. He gets regen off on these guys, I believe, and I don't really care. He's going to clean up the Harpies there. With his 1 remaining Trebuchet, he hits and he kills like 8 of my spears, which is a big deal. That really drives me nuts. They pass their panic test and everything, but I need as many of those guys as I can keep. And then it looks like this. So he runs over the first Bolt Thrower, overruns in the second. His Knights, after killing the Harpies, they are able to reform in such a way to keep both my Kraken and my Spears in the front, which is fine. You know, I'm still going to win that combat if I get that charge off, so I'm not worried about it. And now that, I don't have the charge bonus, the Knights and the Peg Knights are just kind of flailing at each other. I think he kills one of my guys. I did 1 wound back to him, but because he had healed a wound before, it doesn't kill anybody, and we're just sticking around. Okay. So now it's Dread Elf's turn 3. I charge the Spears, and he flees, but he doesn't flee far. And I'm thinking, okay, I don't want to charge with the Kraken, because then when he flees again, he's going to flee through his own unit, and he's going to be safe. So I'm just going to chase with the Spears, and all I needed to roll was a 7, and I catch the unit, I get it for free. I can take a leadership test, and I combat pivot to face his other Knight bus, and I'll be sitting pretty. And I fail. If there is a dice roll in this tournament, I will fail it. So I failed to catch them. I just marched my Kraken up as much as possible, and now I'm going to still be chasing this unit. I move my Executioners up as much as possible. And to make sure that those Grail Knights, which have now been healed, don't flank charge me and obliterate my Spears, I have to sacrifice my Raiders. Which I'm okay with, because now the Executioners are there to help out and take those guys out. In Magic, I Molten Copper this fleeing unit, I kill a guy, I think. And then, yeah, he kills my Bolt Thrower. And my Knights are still stuck in that grind. I only have 2 guys left. He's turned to face them, and they're going to be toast next turn. And that'll be my last flag unit that he needs to capture. He goes in there, the Grail Knights charge the chaff, and his general unit rallies. Awesome. All the things are going my way. Let's see what else happens. Not sure what this is showing. Maybe he just grew a guy back. I think that's what happened. Oh, and his Trebuchet gets a direct hit on my unit. My BSB is okay, but I think he rolls to wound with every blessed thing. And he kills basically the whole unit. I have 3 guys left. I have the command left and my general, plus the BSB. Oh my gosh, those Trebuchets. Anyway, he destroys the Knights, not surprisingly. And now we go into Dread Elf's turn 4. I'm still trying to chase his stupid general's unit. He flees again. By the way, I mean, that probably I shouldn't say probably. It is the right move for him to do that. So that's not a critique of my opponent whatsoever. But man, it's so frustrating that I haven't been able to catch this unit yet, or that he keeps rallying. Because he's done it a couple times outside of his BSB range. But anyway, so that's that. The nice thing though is I do the reroll charge distance for my executioners to make it into the Grail Knight, and they make it in. And now I'm savoring this opportunity because finally I've gotten a hold of one of these units. That's a lot of points in a unit. I'll kill them, and then I'll be in a good spot. Basically, I can do a combat pivot. If he only single charges that unit, I'll take whatever's coming. If he does a double charge, I will flee and make him have to try and redirect somewhere else. So that's that. Magic, I'm trying to whittle these guys down. I do. I kill a couple of them with Molten Copper. So that's something. And then we go into the combat up top of the Executioners. And again, I've already done the math. I'm getting 10 attacks with Hatred, wounding on 2s, with Lethal Strike. And without the Lethal Strike, at best he's getting a 5-up, 5-up. On average, I'm killing 4 to 5 Grail Knights. He's hitting me back with 13 attacks. He's going to hit with half of those, so he's going to get 6.5 hits. He's wounding me on 3s, so he's going to wound me probably 4 times, 3 times, and maybe I make an armor save. So on average, he kills like 3 guys, maybe 4. And then I win on static res. He has no ranks. I have 3. I have a charge. I have a banner. So on average, I'm winning by 4 to 6. Okay, and his general's not near him, so it's a tough test for him to take. His BSB's too far away. I'm sitting pretty, right? You would think. No, doesn't happen. A unit of executioners charging a night bus, not getting charged, charging a night bus, the thing they're literally meant to kill. I kill 3 guys. Okay, so that's a little below average. But then he rolls back and he kills 8 executioners, 8 of them. We bounce. We end up tying combat. I am royally screwed now. My dice continue to hate me. And now I take a test to reform. This is literally all I have left. Is I'm keeping the same amount of models in combat, but I at least give a front to those Peg Knights and to his other Night Bus that can charge them, and just hope for the best, because that's all I've got left. So, KoE turn 5. Both Knight units make it in. The Peg Knights just, with the wings and such, we knew where they were. He just kept them like that. And then, of course, he gets a spell off. I think he gets a regen off on one of the units. Obliterates the Executioners. And then overruns like this to try to keep everybody safe. And his general's unit rallies again without a BSB near them. Or, no, his BSB might have been close enough at that point. I think he was. But in any case, he rallies. So in my turn 5, I'm turning my BSB, my remaining spears of my general, to try to chase after the rest of his army, because all I've got left is to throw magic at them and try to panic them. And then my Kraken charges his general's unit, because there's really nothing else for him to do. He flees, and in his turn 6, they do not rally, so thank goodness. He finally runs off the table, so I get that unit of knights and his general. As for the rest of his army, he just marches them as far as he can to conserve his points. In my turn 6, I march my wizard out of her unit to just try to throw spells at them. I kill a couple knights, but it's not enough to panic them, and that's the end of the game. Oh, man. Again, fun game, but just nothing is paying off for me. I took a big gamble in the beginning. I was banking on first turn. I didn't get it, so I know that hurt me. But, man, I couldn't get anything else to go my way. And the KoE walk away with a 16-4 win. They won the objective. They were up on points. My saving grace is that my general and BSB were alive, and his general's unit, his cowardice finally catches up with him, and the lady punishes him by forcing them off the table. Otherwise, that was a solid win for my opponent. MVPs, I think there were quite a few for KoE, but I guess I got to give it to the Grail Knights. I mean, they just ate a huge unit of Executioners to the face, and then were able to hold them up for a counter charge. I don't. It doesn't get much better than that. And for the Dread Elves, it was tough to pick an MVP for the opposite reason, but I'll say the Kraken. He survived, and he did just persistently chase after his general in that unit until they ran off the board. So without that, I wouldn't have got those points. So good job on the Kraken. And in conclusion, what did we learn today? Apparently, Executioners just crumble under pressure. This is the second time in this tournament that they've utterly failed me in multiple situations. Just failing charges. They made the charge at the end and then just not being able to break that unit. Like, it's unbelievable. Those guys just underperforming big time, and it's surprising because in all the practice games I played with them, they weren't performing in that way. They were doing quite well, pretty much what I expect them to, and throughout this tournament, with the exception of game 2, between this game and the first game, they've just been utterly letting me down in situations where they normally dominate. And speaking of disappointments, the Dread Knights continued to disappoint too. In this game, they fail a charge eating a 5 on dice with Swift Stride, and then when they do get the charge off, they can't break a unit of knights on the charge, and it's not a unit that has ranks. It's just a unit of peg knights. Just really, really disappointing. And then the grind, even if they didn't get countercharged, they would have lost that eventually. So, and then recapping game 1 with the knights, couldn't kill that chariot, needing to do 1 wound with a flank charge, and then the last game, I mostly screwed that up, but failing to get in on the charge to help out with the Crusher battle. Again, this unit normally does quite well for me, and it's just really not doing much for me in this tournament. Getting into big gambles, I took a big gamble. Again, I was just trying something different. I thought it was an interesting tactic. I think if I had gone first turn, which is what I was going for, it would have completely changed the game. But when you take a big gamble, that's the risk you take. You're going to get a big gain or a big loss. So, obviously, in other types of games, I wouldn't do that, but that's just something to keep in mind. And then another thing I just wanted to remark on, and my opponent knew it, is that Druidism with Kingdom of Aquitaine is awesome. I mean, it's just a scary combination, because you're taking an army that's very maneuverable if you actually field knights, and they've got great defense. They're 2-up armor all around, and with anything that can really truly hurt them, they're going to have a 5-up ward save. And then you take into account that even if you lose some of those models, you can grow them back. I mean, it's just a really good synergy, and it helped him a lot this game. But yeah, otherwise that's it. My tale of woe continues, but you know what? Day 1 is over. Day 2 will be much better. Tomorrow's a new day, all that jazz. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate your viewership. Hit like, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff. And guys, keep enjoying this war game. It's fantastic. Even when we lose, we have fun. And I look forward to seeing you in the next report. Have a good one.